I hereby call this meeting to order.
Okay.
I could have everybody stand, please, face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jenkins.
All right. Today in attendance, we have Carl Flanagan.
Here.
I think I have one on here that's not anymore. Louise Michaels.
Here.
George McDonald. Charles Carr.
Here.
And Chair Heiko Kallenbach.
Here. One more.
And just joining us is Mr. Mark Klingel.
Welcome.
Sorry. I was on MOAA luncheon.
No worries. No worries.
Mark, which is the one no longer? Okay. I don't know why I haven't moved.
Okay.
This is for you to follow along. And I do stuff on there.
Fine. Thank you.
Howdy.
Good.
How are you, Mark? I'm Heiko. Hello. Charlie, Luis, Heiko, Carl, and George. He'll be a quiz later.
Thank you.
I think we got everybody but Keith, and he's not here.
We're missing somebody?
Keith.
Oh, Keith.
Yeah, Keith's not here yet.
Oh, Keith's right. Okay. Good. First order of business, approving the minutes from 2 months ago. Anybody have any issues with those minutes? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Move to approve the minutes from.
I second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Charlie, seconded by Luis. Comment? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. If you don't mind, I'd like to switch things around just a little bit and do the welcoming our new member first. And maybe we can do the swearing in of members.
Yes.
So that we're all officially here and instated when it comes to public speaking time. Is that okay with you folks?
Perfect.
Okay. So, hello. Stand up and tell the class a little bit about yourself. No, don't say it.
You stand up.
I'm a retired Navy commander. I'm a CPA, and I've worked in several different areas in international supply chain. Semi-retired, lived most of my life either overseas in different places, and grew up in Sarasota, and went to Florida State, and then went off in the military. So that's it. And then, except for I ran a CPA firm for a while, and then we moved up here about 2 years ago.
Wonderful. Cool.
Excellent.
And are you a pilot?
No, I'm not a pilot, but I was a aviation maintenance officer and supply officer,
Okay.
and as a supply officer, I ended up running all the hangars and
Sure, I can
all the other issues.
Can imagine. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank
We are reasonably informal. You don't need to wear a tie if you don't want to, but you're certainly welcome to. Just ask that we maintain a reasonable amount of decorum, be recognized before getting into an all-out discussion, roundtable discussion with whoever is speaking. Outside of that, I got nothing. So myself and Luis were just reappointed, and we have the pleasure of welcoming you as our newest member. And I think we have a swearing in to do now,
That's right.
where we promise to uphold and tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
That's right. Good. Please stand and raise your right hand. And just repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I,
Mark
Heiko Ernst Kallenbach,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
and that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state.
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will faithfully perform and accept the duties
that I will faithfully perform and accept the duties
of a member of the Aviation Advisory Board,
of a member of the Aviation Advisory Board,
of which I'm about to enter.
of which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Excellent, well done.
Thank you.
Do we have anything to talk about with respect to Sunshine?
I was just going to mention that
Okay.
Let me get in this.
because I think I sent it in an email to Mark just to impress that he read that and follow it. Well, the rest of you have had recent enough exposure, so I think we're good there.
Should they sign this thing?
I think just put your name there and then he is going to sign it.
Okay.
Do you want these back? As reference, in case you forgot what we said. So bottom line, we're not supposed to have any ex parte communication with each other outside of the public light. Next order of business, voting on chairman and vice chairman positions. Start with chairman. I'll entertain nominations for the position of chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate you to continue as chairman.
Would you now?
Second that
Okay.
motion.
Made and seconded. Do I have any other better ideas?
I move
Okay.
that we close.
Motion to close the nominations is made. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I am a re-elected chairman. May I have a nomination for position of vice chairman? Seeing none, I would respectfully nominate Mr. George McDonald to be re-elected as vice chairman.
Second.
I'd be happy to continue.
Okay. Any other nominations? We'll call the nominations closed, and all in favor of George McDonald as vice chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. Nicely done. Hard-fought election. Congratulations. I've been, Mark, just so you know, I made it a practice over the last few months to bring coffee and donuts. I didn't want to do that today to make it, appear not untoward that I was campaigning or something like that. But they'll be back next month. Don't worry. I just ran out of time today. Too many things to do. Okay, having gone through that, throw things open to the public. Andy.
Hello, everyone. Just a couple updates. Let's see.
Excuse me, one second. And Mark, are you familiar with Andy Chan?
No, I'm not.
Would you, for the record and the new guy, please?
Absolutely. My name is Andy Chan. I'm a CFI, MEI, CFI glider, aerobatic and tail wheel instructor. They say aircraft mechanic. And then we operate the Inverness Airport as Right Rudder Aviation as the fixed base operation. So we operate a Part 61 and 141 airplane school and a Part 61 glider school, and operate a program for Mesa Airlines as a time building program as well. We also sell quite a number of aircraft throughout the country. So that's a little bit about us. Any questions?
No,
All right.
not yet.
No problem. So a couple of updates about us. We're going to be adding 2 more aircraft to our fleet over the next couple of months. One, another glider, and then we're going to add a multi-engine to our fleet. It'll be the Cessna P2006. We're super excited about that. That'll allow us to train more pilots that are on the career track towards airline pilot. And with that in mind, the Mesa program is running smoothly. We still only have the 3 aircraft right now. The next 4 aircraft should come within the next 30 to 60 days, and the following 4 aircraft should come 30 to 60 days thereafter. So in total right now, it looks like we'll have approximately 40 Mesa cadets at our facility at any given time. And with housing that has become available, it seems like we're going to make that number work. If you recall, originally we wanted to house 200 Mesa Airlines cadets. We've had difficulty finding residential housing temporary for them. But right now we're pretty confident in the 40 number. So that program is working out well. Actually, the program started, if you recall, in either October or November, and all of the cadets that were the launch cadets have since graduated, except for one who's leaving at the end of the week. So everyone we have now is a new cadet, not original to the program. So we're super excited about that. One of the reasons we're able to house more people, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Dr. Desai's new hotel opened up in Inverness. It's a wonderful facility. If you haven't had the opportunity to stop by that facility yet, it's really the only hotel in Inverness. And so that makes it quite easy for cadets to get over. It's right near downtown and right near the hospital. And it's an extended stay hotel, so it's quite nice. There's been a lot of tourist surveys going on at the airport. We'll talk about that later, but coincidentally unrelated to the construction, there was a tortoise on the runway today that a Mesa aircraft kind of hit a little bit. Tortoise was fine, aircraft was fine, but I think we are kind of seeing more tortoises at the airport, unfortunately. I like that. I have tortoises, but we don't want to hit them. The EAA chapter is doing exceptionally well. Third Saturday of the month, 9 a.m. If anyone wants to attend, I do encourage each and every one in this room to attend. We have about 30 people every single time that they meet, and they're planning an informal kind of soft launch fly-in sometime next month with just a handful of aircraft, and they may start doing that on a monthly basis and cooking up either breakfast or lunch as a fundraiser for the chapter. They're working on getting a couple of different aircraft to start working on, and then they're going to start working on Young Eagles probably sometime in the fall, which is going to be super exciting. So we're volunteering the space, and we're also volunteering all of our aircraft to take young people up and discover the skies. We are currently hiring for aircraft mechanics and front desk personnel, or line maintenance personnel. So if you can help us get the word out, we appreciate that. Lately, there's been a lot more utilization of airport property that is unfenced at the airport. Specifically, there's some retention ponds that are not fenced in that are airport property, and they are being used multiple times per day by multiple parties per day. And I don't know if we want our policy to be that that is public land and people can use it for whatever purpose they desire, or if we should say that that's off limits to individuals. So people are riding dirt bikes, ATVs, they're training dogs, they're playing golf, and also working out in the common areas at the airport. And that's happening every single day right now. I've asked the county for direction with this and have not received a response yet, positive or negative. So I haven't done anything. I haven't taken any action with respect to that.
Quick question. Now, I've seen some of that myself. What I've seen is like people jogging in the retention ponds outside of the secured fence area.
Outside of the secured fence area is what we're talking about. Jogging, playing golf, training dogs, ATVs, dirt bikes, motorcycles.
That I haven't seen, but yeah, I think you're right.
Just go look and you'll see the tracks all over. We recently passed the Department of Health audit that is every 2 or 3 years for our fuel tanks. And we also passed our TSA audit, both with flying colors. And that is all I have for you guys right now. Any questions?
Andy, the EA third Saturday, what time?
9 a.m. To around 12 p.m. So they do VMC and IMC club. The first kind of half hour is usually social hour where there are Heiko, coffee and donuts to entice people to come in. And then there's usually a pretty good guest speaker. We've had AOPA come in. We've had some DPEs come in. So really good guest speakers, and a lot of them qualify for wings credit as well. For the pilots
And that is 9 to noon, when?
Third Saturday of the month.
Third Saturday.
Yep. And that's in our multi-purpose cafe area where we temporarily house these meetings previously.
And do you advertise?
Sorry?
Do you advertise that in the newspaper or Facebook or?
I don't, so I'm not the president, so we're happy to host and provide
Okay,
space
gotcha,
to the
gotcha.
chapter, but I am not the chapter president or on the board of directors because we have too much going on.
Okay.
So they have their own Facebook group and they do their own recruiting, and then EAA sends out email blasts and everything like that. So a lot of the people who come to the Inverness chapter are also members in Brooksville or Marion County or Leesburg or all of the above. And so the third Saturday of the month conflicts with as few other local EAA chapters as possible.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Uri Davis, Chris River Airport. I'm representing James today. He had to leave. And for Mr. Klingel, I'm the Director of Operation for our 135, and I'm also the Director of Training and the Chief Flight Instructor at the Crystal River Airport. So you should come visit sometime. I'll be happy to show you around.
Great.
Yeah. I heard today that the painting of the main hangar is winding down, probably today. They are still planning on painting the generator, but she said it would be down the road a little bit. And another painting company came by yesterday. They are planning on starting hangar phase 1 June 16th. And I'd like to report that our scholarship girl passed her private pilot check ride on May the 1st, so we had a successful one. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Davis?
No.
Okay. Aviation workshop?
Yes, sir. That is scheduled for June 6th. So we're still working on the presentation. I have another staff meeting with that on the 17th. So looking forward to having that happen and see some direction we get from that.
Is that here?
No, that'll be downtown at the courthouse where the DOCC meetings are.
Oh,
Yes, that's 9 o'clock in the morning, I believe.
Yeah.
On June 6th.
To that end, Quincy and I and Commissioner Davis attended a meeting with Steve Howard and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Frank Calashone.
Yes, to discuss some of the issues that we've been discussing here and to bring forward our agenda. Basically, the work remaining to be done that was part of last year's work that we did on the mission statement. And so they have all that information, they have all that documentation, and will of course give that due consideration as they move forward with whatever the staff recommends. They've also asked for information on what we looked at last year, what the DOT gave us from a standpoint of the value, economic value that that each airport brings to Citrus County as a way to justify, obviously, the expenditures that the new airport and refreshing FBOs and everything that both airports are looking for will cost. And I certainly plan to be there at the aviation workshop. Welcome anybody else that has the ability to go June 6th, 9 to noon. I don't know, it's not one of these workshops where you sit around and everybody has a voice. It's more the board is up front and they're getting briefings from staff who have prepared various things. So we're relying on Quincy to be our primary voice there. And like I said, we did press our issues forward with Steve Howard. Yes, ma'am.
Just a little input on that. We did advertise it as a dual BOCC workshop and aviation meeting, so everyone is able to attend, and they should have an open to the public like they do at all the other meetings and stuff. So you would have an opportunity to speak, but we advertised it that way to get because of the sunshine law. So
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pretty sure that
Which day?
this
June 6th.
Thank you.
this workshop I think is only an hour. I think there's another workshop at 10 o'clock. So this will be a shorter workshop.
Short and sweet. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Hour and a half? Okay. Danae says hour and a half, so 10:30.
Okay. Operating budget.
Yes, so we sent that out ahead of time just for y'all to take a look at. If you have any comments, questions, I'd be happy to address them. Or you can certainly send them to me after today. I've already had my meeting with Office of Men and Budget to go over the increases in costs and so forth. And so they're taking into consideration and trying to balance the budget.
From what sources were all of the various line items on the budget obtained?
This is pretty much all general fund.
Not the money, the line items themselves.
Okay. Well, a lot of these are standard, like utilities and so forth. Do you have any particular question, like the maintenance and of different pieces of equipment? A lot of them have been there for quite a while. The phone services and the postage, that's just all things that have been on here. That's typically on here every year. Mowing, the Vertower systems now, they're new the last couple of years. The professional services, the post tree clearing monitoring has been on here for a couple of years now. We'll be starting year 2 of that in June. The pinning of the electrical vault, that's been on here for a while. Due to tight budget, this has been bumped a few times, which isn't necessarily a big deal because we've had our surveyors monitor it periodically to make sure it's not moving anymore. So it's okay. A lot of these others, I did add some, like the maintenance buildings, painting more of the buildings and sealing, like the other corporate hangar at the Chris River Airport, sealing the roof and then doing the painting. There are a couple new items. Equipment maintenance, the generators, they've been on here for some time, and pretty much all these other items as well. But we just take a look at them and see if we think there's any increases. Like I heard you talking before the meeting started about the AWAS. We've been having a little more problems with the AWASs. That was brought up here a couple meetings ago. At Inverness in particular, we've had some at Chris River as well. But one of the issues at Inverness, it was a board for something, a computer board. I don't remember what it was for. But our maintenance repair guy that we hired to do these, he's been doing these since actually he installed those systems. So he's been doing them ever since. But that one board, if we had to buy that new, would have been $17,000 because now these systems are becoming obsolete. And I think that's the game a lot of businesses play now. They let things, they don't keep making them, so you have to buy a new system. But fortunately, he had some parts left over from putting a new system in at another airport, and he was able to keep some of the parts from the older system. He had one, so it was very minimal cost to us to get that repaired this time. But that's why I bumped those operating costs for now, in case we have to buy one of those boards next year. So we are looking into, I don't think I made them, it was after I had already submitted the CIP to replace those systems, but I'm still have it in mind to talk to the FAA again. I did mention it to, I think it was an email to our rep at the FAA, Hillary Mall, about looking into replacing these. And as y'all, Mark wouldn't be aware, but y'all remember that we have bill money that we're letting accumulate year to year. That bill money is not part of the AIP program. The AIP program has a pretty fixed schedule. We have to put a pre-app in October and November. Final application is due in May, and then they give us a grant in August. But the bill money, she said that we can apply for that money any time of the year. So I'm considering asking her if we can use that money to move forward with replacing the older AWAS at this point, which is the one in Inverness. So then we have to consider, I think I'll probably go ahead and have an engineer involved because Ward, who does our repairs, there's only one company now in the country that's their AWAS. So it's a monopoly pretty much. There's a more basic system. I'm not sure if that basic system is FAA approved. So, but I hear other airports are starting to put that system in because it's only like, I forget what it was, a ridiculous low amount compared to the new AWAS like we have out there. It'd be $300,000 to $350,000. So that's something we got to look at and decide how we're going to move forward. So I'll, at some point, when I talk to the FAA, bring that back to you to see what direction we're going to go with as far as what type of AWAS system we're going to put in.
Be interested to know when we say an AWAS is not FAA approved, does that mean that it doesn't qualify as local weather for purposes of some of these approach procedures?
I really don't know the answer to that, but that's what I think it would mean.
Yeah.
We need AWAS 3 as the
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for
Yeah,
Quincy?
Quincy, so in regards to what we were just talking about, are there schedules of life expectancy on these various pieces of equipment to identify that, after a while, you can sink so much money into something until it's not worth it, that you just flat out need to buy something, as opposed to keep throwing money, like kicking the can down the road.
Right.
Is there a schedule that you have that you're looking at as far as all these pieces of equipment that, in order to properly run an FBO, that it's there?
No, we do not have a fixed schedule. For the AWAS in particular, some of the other instruments I'm thinking of is the PAPIs or the reels. We do not have fixed schedules for those. That's something I could look into to see if I could easily contact the manufacturer or the people that sell it, Allen Enterprises, and see if they have a schedule for replacing.
And I'm just thinking from a budgeting standpoint to be able to, identify, because I know every time I've been at the BOCC meetings, when you go up there and talk, you need to be prepared to have something that'll substantiate what you're talking about,
right,
to be able to gain the traction and also to attain the credibility of your ask, so to speak.
Right.
To the extent that we are, for example, at Crystal River, widening the runway, adding the business park at Inverness, and so and adding the business park at Inverness, to the extent there's going to be more and more traffic coming in, obviously you want the infrastructure there to support it.
Right.
And if the AWAS is so old that it regularly goes out of service, then that means that much tougher to get back into that airport.
Right, and honestly, I haven't really thought of the schedule aspect of that, because that system is only 11 years old or so. 13 years old, the one at Inverness. The one at Crystal River, I think we put in 2011-ish, so it's only 12 years old. I certainly expect those to last longer than that. That sound right? Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind reporting back on what a normal replacement schedule is, lifespan of an AWAS,
Sure.
what's expected and what most airports wind up having to do. We don't want to buy a new one every time there's a little glitch with the old one, but at the same time, you don't want to keep throwing good money after bad. Keep something running when it would be cheaper in the long run to replace it. Any further comments?
That would be my comment, is what capital budget do you have for your replacement? So that, do we have a fund? Are we running it to identify the items and put money aside? Because if there's no capital budget, then what do you're waiting for the government to pay, and my experience with the government is it's not going to come up today. They're going to say it's 4 years away. So what do you need?
Typically for the bigger ticket items, like we have a schedule for when we're going to restripe and mark the airfields, when we're going to replace, rehab the runway, taxiway, aprons. We have in mind when those things need to be done, but as far as individual pieces of equipment, no, we don't have that schedule at this point.
Let's keep that in mind as something to start thinking about and start
Definitely.
figuring out how to make that work. Any other questions on the operating budget, Mr. CPA?
I have some questions, but I'd rather just hold off because I haven't had a chance to really look at this.
Fair enough. Fire station?
Yes, that's something that's come up. It looks like there's the fire chief. We had a meeting with the fire chief and Frank Calcione, as I mentioned, who was our economic development director. Met with them about putting a fire station in somewhere south of Inverness, and it's deemed to be a pretty logical point to have one on the airport, because it would be a definite benefit to the airport as well. So, and this would of course serve people to the south of Inverness, which has the issue without fire hydrants or whatever in that area. They have higher insurance costs, so that's one of the objectives of putting this fire station to the south of Inverness, is to help to reduce insurance costs for homes in that area.
Will this
So-
be using existing structure on the airport or
No,
building a
it'll
new?
be- It'll
owning
be new,
facility?
it'll be, right off of England Boulevard is the intended where the old, medical helicopter people were. Basically right inside that gate, right off of England Boulevard, which would be ideal, because then they have quick access to 41 as well. So, I drew a little exhibit of that and sent it to one of our consultants to take a look at and see if they saw any red flags there, before we went to the FAA with that, to see if they have any issues. So, he said, no, it's certainly doable there. So now it's back in Frank's and the fire chief's hands as far as them getting the funding and starting design. So,
Excuse me.
Andy, was there some, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are the fire department doing specialized aircraft training as far as firefighting for aircraft accidents?
I don't know. Andy?
So I'll speak to a couple of points. So this came about, I've been talking to Frank and the new county administrator, Steve, about this possibility, because as we're looking at developing the business park, fire suppression has been.
Andy, you might come to the mic?
Yeah. Yeah, so just to recap, this is something I brought up to Frank and the new county administrator as kind of a desired item that was kind of a shoot for the moon kind of a thing, because the business park has had challenges with finding the right amount of water. That's still something they're working on. But having a fire station on the airport would greatly reduce the insurance rates of the business park, also all of the enterprises on the airport, and of course the Highlands as well. So it's tremendously desirable. What it does open up is the opportunity in the future potentially for the Inverness Airport to be a Part 139 airport potentially. And that's where the question you asked comes into play. If we did seek that at some point in time in the future, then Chief Stevens would need to train his crew on aircraft-specific operations. Mm-hmm. If we just remain a non-Part 139 certificated airport, then there's no legal need for them to do so. But from a practical standpoint, they presently train about 4 or 5 times a year at the Inverness Airport in other activities. And they're familiar with everything about the Inverness Airport. The one thing that would be helpful for them is to get trained in ballistic recovery systems, rocket-propelled devices. Specifically, that would be tremendously helpful if they did get trained in that. So I think this is still a pie-in-the-sky kind of a thing until it goes forward and it gets funding, but I'm super excited that it's getting traction because it would definitely lower insurance rates. It would definitely open up the possibility for 139 in the future, and it would make it safer for us all to fly there. So super excited about this possibility. It also opens up the possibility for Citrus County Fire to receive surplus aircraft-specific fire trucks free of charge from other government entities. And so there's an opportunity there for some free equipment as well.
Thank you, Andy.
Anything else on that subject? Armory.
Armory, yes, just to let y'all know, I might have mentioned this at a previous meeting that they are looking at expanding their parking. Looks like it'll be more of a grid, a porous material, so minimize stormwater requirements. But their lease area is actually, I believe it's around 18 acres. They only have fenced in much less than that. So the piece they're looking at is kind of a pie shape going east of their existing fence, east along the Venable Road. So they're moving forward with the stormwater permitting at this point, and design is underway, and they'll be working on that sometime in the future.
Okay.
Just want to let y'all know it's still basically within their lease area.
Helicopter tenants.
Yes, we have a helicopter tenant that we're working on a lease with. Going in the T hangar building number 1 at Crystal River. I've spoken with one of our aviation consultants, and just to be assured that it's not uncommon to mix smaller helicopters with fixed wing. So I did draw an exhibit stating where he would have to take off and land, so it wouldn't be in front of anybody else's hangar. So we're moving forward with that lease. I just want to let y'all know.
And which hangar is that at Crystal River?
That's the T-hangar building number 1. Which is this one right here. And building number 2 is already here. Building 3 will be in the future here.
Okay.
And so I've pinpointed the spot off the end of building 3 where they will be able to take off the land. So you'd have to pull his wheel, his helicopter there.
Okay.
Take off and move his cart and go. So I just want to let y'all know about that.
Good. Is that a commercial?
No, it's just small.
Okay.
private. It's gonna be out here.
Grudy, have we had helicopter tenants before? Has it ever been a problem? Pretty much in that same area there, north of the taxiway?
I think I will.
Used to have a sightseeing service out of there.
Because I don't have that light.
Do we have any more new business to discuss?
You don't have, we actually,
The
after
printed
we sent it
copy.
to you, I actually wound up adding one item. I sent y'all the exhibit for it and told you that I didn't make it on the agenda. But then Danae called me this morning and said, I haven't printed it yet. Do you have any one last minute thing? I said, well, actually, yes. So the Citrus Kids Triathlon, that will be happening this Saturday morning. They'll start setting up, I believe, around 5 in the morning and should have everything taken down by about 3 p.m.
Okay.
They will be blocking off part of Lindbergh Drive, just past, my understanding, it's just past of the entrance to the FBO area. So the FBO people will be able to still access the FBO main entrance.
Great.
But I sent a notice out to all the tenants to let them know that that area will be cordoned off, and they have to then go through the FBO area to get back to their hangar.
So will car traffic toward to Bicentennial then be cut off at some point
Yes.
for the triathlon?
Yes.
Triathlon?
Like I said, they'll start setting up at 5 a.m. Exactly when they're going to close the road off, I don't know if it's as early as 5 a.m. because I know they're going to do the, I know they're doing the swimming first, and I'm not sure if they're doing the running. I don't know what the order for triathlon is. Anybody know? Pardon? Say again? Okay, there you go. So the bicycle event, and then the run. So, so at some point during that period, that part of the road will be cut off. And I gave you all the exhibits, the exhibit of it. Now, just to let you know, their intent was to actually have this on the exhibit. As you can see, they're riding down to gate 14A, which is onto the airport. Their intent was to go onto the airport, go around the whole entire runway, and back off. That was too short a notice again, like we had with the with that car event that was proposed to try and get it through the FAA and everybody. So they were pretty adamant that come next year they're going to seek permission to do it on the airport. So
Okay.
that's something that have to be dealt with.
This year they're not going on the.
No, no.
I'm hosting the Suncoast 99 Saturday morning because
Are you?
some of them will be flying in.
Okay. Yes, no, they're not going on the airport. And then something that's not on the new business, I wrote it down here, and then got kind of busy, so I was going to mention it, then I wasn't, now I will. We have selected someone for my replacement, and they're supposed to start Monday. So, his name is Tom.
What do you mean replacement, Quincy?
What?
I'm leaving.
There's no replacing you.
We have to vote on it first.
Uh-oh. Well, let's get those drinks going before you have that vote.
So when you say starting Monday, is there a transition period where you'll both be in the job?
Yes, my last day will be August 31.
Okay.
So he'll be here for, this is May, June, July, about May.
And who's this?
His name is Todd Reagan.
Todd Reagan.
He was 20 years in the Coast Guard as a helicopter mechanic. So he's done some project management in the Coast Guard and budget stuff and so forth. So we hope it'll be a good fit.
He's up to speed on FAA grants and all that?
Not so much. So I've got 3 months to help them in that direction.
Okay. Watch a few YouTube videos.
How hard can it be?
Actually, the FAA grants are not that hard. You just turn in that grant application and they typically give you the grant. So,
You'll be sorely missed, sir.
thank you, sir.
I mean, so much of what has transpired out here and developed, I mean, it's pretty much got your name on it.
Another point on that. With the new person coming in, I think there's an opportunity here for the new person to continue their education, particularly on the grant side and things like that. And I kind of brought this up to you before, I think, Quincy, but there's the American Association of Airport Executives, AAAE, and that's a organization that a lot of airport managers join and continue their professional development. The first step along the way is called a CM, or certified member, and then beyond that, you can become a accredited airport executive, AAE. And I'm not sure if the board has any power here, but I think it'd be great if there was a strong recommendation to the BOCC to make that a part of the new person's continuing education. I myself am going through those programs, and it's tremendously beneficial, I think, particularly on the more governmental regulation and grant side of things.
I presume next meeting, Todd will be here?
Yes.
Okay, good. We'll certainly have an opportunity to kick that around with him then.
Absolutely. Moving on.
Okay, the runway 927 GPS approaches, that's still in the works. The person that was handling that at AID left, so I've been talking with the person who kind of is overseeing that for AID. He's a little bit behind the curve, but I did talk to him again just the other day about that. And since I wasn't really clear that he knew everything that Tamika knew, so I called Tamika and spoke with her, and because the last thing he sent me was a proposal for Wolpert, who was the surveyor, to do another aerial survey of the airport, because they needed, evidently the FAA was asking for the imagery, and we did not have the imagery from the first survey because that wasn't really required. So so I went ahead and called Tamika and talked to her about that. She said she was talking to someone at the FAA about them not requiring the imagery. So back and forth, I talked to Kyle at AID again. He's supposed to be talking to the Tamika and talking to the person at the FAA about hopefully not requiring that, because that cost from Wolpert alone was about $35,000. So, and then we would probably have to run that through a consultant and have them be involved as well, so there'd be additional costs there. So if we don't get some movement on that in the next month or so, I think we may need to look for other funds and go ahead and go that route.
So the imagery that you have on your poster is not good enough imagery?
Not that I know. I mean, basically, from what they've told me, the imagery, the survey data that they submitted is not all that the FAA wanted. So
Quincy, can they amend that because they already surveyed?
well, my understanding is, in order to get that imagery, they would have to do another survey, because that survey is now 2 to 3 years old. So that's my understanding.
But nothing's changed.
It
I
doesn't
know.
matter.
It doesn't matter. Just like a survey for your house. I mean, if you're going to go get a mortgage in 6 months, the survey's got to be redone.
Mhm.
So.
So the problem is we do another survey and then it takes another 2 years. And then the FAA wants a new survey.
I would hope not. So,
Yeah, okay.
Do you have a name at the FAA?
I'm not sure who they were talking to. I don't remember Amy's last name. Amy is the one that kind of oversees the reviewing the category exclusions and so forth. I'm not sure if it's her or not. So, but I could get a name.
The runway 27 approach is not affected though, right? It's just runway 9.
Right, since we displaced the threshold.
That's the only one that's affected by this action.
Right, but my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a GPS approach for 2.7 either, do we? Didn't they?
We have 2.7 and 9
I thought they took that because of the obstructions we had.
GPS 2.7 is open.
It's still open?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, it is.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so this action is just to try to get the GPS 9 approved.
Yes.
And we want to get that approved before construction starts on the runway extension, because then 2.7 will close.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to lose 2.7, and that's going to have a big impact on business at the airport.
I know you mentioned that at the last meeting, and I asked the consultant that, and I don't understand why we would lose 2.7 during construction.
It's the same.
For the same
problem.
reason we lost runway, not necessarily, not so much during construction, but once the
Once
new
you change the
threshold,
threshold.
for
yes.
the exact
Okay.
same reason that we
Right.
lost
Yes.
9.
Okay. So we have some time there.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we need to let it drag on, I understand.
It will affect the approach claim.
Yeah, we could be in a position where we don't have any approach.
And that's what we're trying, that's what we need to avoid.
Trying to avoid, yes.
1836 markings.
Okay, they're working on that pretty actively. He just sent me an exhibit yesterday confirming they pinpointed the obstructions. And again, because Tamika left the company, now Kyle's trying to handle a lot more than he was. I confirmed to him that all the obstructions that he pointed out were in fact gone as a result of the tree clearing, except for one of the power poles down on Penn Drive was right on the line. It was pinpointed, but if it becomes necessary, we'll probably just seek to have a light put on that pole. So I just kind of, it's hard to believe that pole is actually an obstruction at the 20 to 1. But
Because that's right at the tree line over
yes, down on
there.
Penn.
Yeah.
So yes, they are working on that one pretty actively. CGC, FBO maintenance and improvements. Well, that also goes for Inverness. We've done a few at the Chris River, as you're aware. The latest thing is we've cut a PO for the one additional security camera, and that is being scheduled by Armitage Alarms to have that to install that. So that's in the works. And then most of the items that were on that priority list, I'll kind of lump that in with that for both airports, is going to be discussed at the workshop.
Okay.
The hangar land leases template revised, as you're aware that, well, Mark's not, but that will also be discussed at the workshop to look at the terms. I think the primary change is the terms from 25 a year with 5 5-year renewable periods to 25 year with 2 5-year renewable periods. So that will be discussed at the workshop as well. And then the next one, the Godfrey Lane power line ball markers. I sent that well over a month ago to legal, and I know they're very busy. That is still being reviewed by them.
Is that a useful modification?
What do you mean?
It looks like to me you'd hit the trees before you hit the power line.
That was brought up here at the last meeting, I believe. So that's something that needs to be decided if it
Have they looked
warrants.
at putting the power lines underground?
That's a possibility, but that's a
Well, it's not cheap, don't get me
That-
wrong, but
yes,
I'm asking the question, would it work?
well,
That would
that's,
eliminate that issue.
that would solve the problem.
Well, sure it would. But that's my point is I don't think it's an issue.
And
Well, I'm looking at 10 years out. Okay. What are you gonna do? I know I'm new, I don't have the questions, but are you looking at a mission statement or a strategic plan that says what's gonna happen in 5 years and 10 years and what you're looking at and where your budgeting is gonna be, what you're gonna need to have done, what kind of issues? You already just mentioned helicopters. You're gonna have vertical or V-stall aircraft coming in over the next 5 years that are gonna be going through. What are they looking at? I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
So we have a vision statement that includes general long-term strategic plans in a more general sense. That do you have copies of those electronically that you can send to
Did I
Mark?
not send you the vision statement?
No.
Did you get the master plan links?
No.
Oh, that's weird, because I sent all that together along with the,
All I got was the agenda and the
this
minutes.
was 2-3 weeks ago. I sent
No.
both master plan links, I sent the vision statement and the sunshine law document. So,
I haven't seen it.
okay, I didn't get an error that it didn't go,
It
but.
may have. I've got thousands of emails in the last few months.
Okay. So I could try resending those, and then I'll give you a call and see.
And a
check.
couple of weeks ago was the last of tax season. I still do taxes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, what we did last year was put together an overall, and you'll see it's fairly general as far as things we'd like to see in the next 5 to 10 to 20 years.
Right.
Ideally, what we'd like the county to look like aviation-wise, and then on top of that, there was a list of things that need doing right now, very, very short-term things. These are you familiar with what we're talking about here with respect to the power line?
Not fully, but I
Okay,
basically.
so when you come in on the grass runway at Crystal River going southbound,
Okay.
there are several sets of horizontal power lines that you're passing across. The first one on Godfrey Street does not have these orange balls. Yeah, you pass over power lines when you come in on
I
runway
understand.
9. Those have orange balls. The power line that you pass over to come in on 1-8 does not. And so the question is whether they're needed. And Duke says, yeah, we'll put them up, but we need you to sign all sorts of liability things that legal doesn't sound like they're very inclined to do. Or we'll just give you the balls and you put them up yourself. We'll figure it out how. That sort of thing. So bottom line is, do we the argument against putting up the balls is that the power lines are sufficiently low that you will hit many, many trees at the same time that you hit the power lines, and those trees are really visible. So the question then is, how much is it worth putting those? What's the risk reward there?
And that's fine. I understand that part. Like I said, underground. And I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm looking at if you're going to have to replace it or do something here in the future, in 4 or 5 years. Is that an item? Is it going to affect other flight patterns? If MESA turns around and starts really doing a lot of training and the expansion of the runway, what are you looking at for aircraft coming in? I mean, if you expand it 500 or 600 feet, from what I understand on the side, you're looking at being able to take small Learjets, some small.
Not on that runway, it's grass runway.
Oh, grass runway. Okay, but other things that are coming through. What are you going to look at?
Right. So this power line in question is on the grass strip,
Okay.
not on the paved runway. So the paved runway extension has no bearing on
this one. Okay, that's
on
fine.
these power lines themselves. Hangars?
Yes, I believe Susan's working actually on with two people right now to fill these 2 vacancies at Inverness, and we have no vacancies at Crystal River. On to
Real quick on the hangars, I feel obliged to say that I know I'm bring this up every time, but we still have an uncertificated pilot regularly flying at the Inverness Airport that we choose to rent hangars to, and no one seems to want to stop this individual from flying, and he's been flying more regularly recently. seems to me like a danger to the community, but.
When you say uncertificated, that is, he does not have a pilot's license
Correct.
of any kind.
Correct. And the FAA has asked the county to stop him from flying, and we have not.
The sheriff seems unwilling to act.
Well, that's the FAA,
Yeah,
that's in the FAA grounds, you know?
There's some question as to exactly whose job it is to tell him that he has to stop flying and tell him that he can't have a hangar.
Well, as far as the hangar goes, it was determined by the county attorney that we could lease him the hangar. So this all happened a couple years ago, and he has 2 hangars. So
Has the county attorney determined that we have to keep renting him a hangar?
have not.
Or at the end of the lease, at the end of the term of his lease, could one simply say we're not renewing the lease?
Well, we're dealing with a situation like that right now, that somebody's lease is up for renewal. Their lease will expire at the end of June. They sold their aircraft in January, so they don't have one. They say they're looking for one, but it's been 5 months. So we are going to not renew his lease come June. So same goes for anyone else that we're aware of, that if they don't have an N number, they don't have an aircraft. At the time of renewal, we'll not renew that lease.
Yeah, I know this is an issue we kicked around quite a bit. I guess when we first became aware of it, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago or so. And then there was a lot of discussion. What it all came down to is sheriff wasn't going to stop them. FAA can't because they're not here. And what it comes down to basically is the only people that can stop them is whoever is the leasing of the hangar. And the county attorney does not want to get into modifying a lease or using some of the clauses in the lease to say that, okay, if you're flying dangerously, you can't rent a hangar from us. Apparently that's fine with her. And I'm not sure how to proceed with that, other than I know we've, the only thing I can think of doing is as a board, if we write a letter and say that we believe this is a dangerous situation, and as far as we can tell, the only leverage the county has is with the hangar. We think the, I don't know, the legalities of who gets to have a hangar and who doesn't, based on whether or not they're certificate and non-certificate, if they're flying in accordance with regulations or not flying in accordance with regulations, I don't know. Some direction needs to happen there, and I don't know if we need to make the push on that to the county with one of our board communications, with a letter or something, or what. But it's really, that situation out there it's an accident waiting to happen. Well, I understand he goes off in the middle of the night sometimes too, and that increases the hazard. And I don't know, gentlemen, you don't have any thoughts on the subject?
Well, I do, because when I fly, I rent from Crystal Air Group. I have to have an application with them. I have to complete it. I have to show them all the justifications that I am a certificated pilot to be able to rent an aircraft, or I can't rent. So does it not make sense that if I'm not certificated, I should not be allowed to lease an airport hangar?
Well, where do you draw the line? I mean, if you have,
We have aircraft owners who lease hangar space who are not pilots.
that's what I was going to say.
All right.
Also, aircraft mechanics may lease something.
there's a whole bunch of scenarios, student pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's someone who's doing it lawfully. The difference is he's doing it unlawfully.
Right.
The
We're not,
FAA is trying to nab him.
right. I mean, we're condoning what he's doing
Yeah.
by our inaction. I think that really does not show wise discernment on our part.
I was gonna ask that question. Has the county attorney looked into the possibility if he had an accident? I'm not too sure that if an injured party couldn't sue the county for having aided and abetted such an action.
No, it's not the job of the FBO to ask for a license to the pilot. I flew 38 years and never in 38 years I was asked by anybody, I want to see your license.
Yeah.
Only the FAA. Because if somebody asks me to see my license, I don't want to show you. Get out of here. So you want to be the police and you are not the police.
No. Just to clarify, the FAA called us and the county and the sheriff and asked us to take action. We were not aware, as an FBO, we were not aware of the situation until the FAA brought it to our attention.
It really ought to be the FAA who was.
Correct, the FAA had to take
Enforcement
action,
officers basically.
not you.
Well, that's their problem. They need to bring him down.
Well, that's correct. The enforcement agency really is the FAA. The fact is, they're not insured. They're not, or they can't. And in the meantime, we have a situation where we've got somebody that is a credible hazard to public safety out there. And I don't think we can take the position of saying, well, we just need to wait for the FAA to handle it before. I think we.
George, the
Yeah.
FAA has sent inspectors out at night because somebody was supposed to fly into the airport and they thought he was doing it illegally. That ended up not being the case. But I drove by from Home Depot and I saw the lights in the parking lot. So I pulled in and there were two inspectors, I knew them. And I asked, what are you gentlemen doing here tonight? They said, oh, we're waiting on an aircraft. They can have the ADSB, the number of the aircraft, and they know when it's flying, and they can do the same at the Inverness Airport as they did at Crystal River. They were ready to meet that person and do something with them. So I don't think they feel it's important enough to them for some reason. I don't know.
They may not, but my question is, an incident or accident happens and we didn't take any action. What
Well, you
are-
did.
are we liable?
You're running into brick walls everywhere.
Quincy, would you please look in,
I feel like it's an accident waiting to happen, and I don't want to be liable for it.
would you please look into whether or not, when the settlements lease is up, and whether or not there's legal justification simply for saying we're not going to renew your lease anymore? Simple as that.
For what reason?
Because we don't like you. because we have had
Well,
reports, and
I
we
mean,
need to justify these reports from the
yeah,
FAA that says that you're operating aircraft illegally.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of my lease in front of me, but I think it's got provisions like, you can't set off fireworks in the hangar or light your aircraft on fire or anything like that. So, I mean, the use of the hangar is assumed to be in accordance with public safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, to me, that's the angle. If he's an owner, he's learning to fly, and he has an aircraft there, no, that's one thing. But if he's taking off in the middle of the night doing God knows what, and there's no annual, there's no inspections, there's no license, there's no medical, if there's none of that kind of thing there, that's to me, that's in the same category as someone setting their airplane on fire in the middle of their hangar. It's not an allowed use.
To the extent that the FBO that the county has been informed by the FAA that there's illegal activity going on. Is that justification for not renewing the lease of a hangar? Simple question.
I can do that, but the first answer is going to be show us documentation from the FAA that they stated that.
Okay?
And we work.
We can put you in touch, Quincy, with the FAA investigator.
Okay.
And of course, he's a known criminal with a criminal history in Citrus County.
So when the FAA, who exactly did the FAA inform that this was going on, and in what form did that inform take?
You can make a hotline complaint, and that will be investigated.
That's not what I'm asking, Rudy. Andy, who from the FAA said what to whom?
So the phone number that's listed in the chart supplement for the Inverness Airport is our phone.
Okay?
So we took the call, specifically Shavana did it, and basically the inspector said at the time, we know this gentleman, we have a tip that this gentleman is about to take off. Please call the sheriff and have them let the person taxi under the runway and then stop him. That's exactly what happened. It was like a movie. The guy taxied on the runway to take off. The sheriff's deputy came flaring with sirens and lights and stopped him mid-takeoff. And then the sheriff's deputy was on the phone with the FAA inspector. The FAA inspector cited different laws and regulations and said, here's the authority with which to hold him. I'm going to hop on a flight from Atlanta to Tampa now and then drive up to Inverness if you can hold him a couple hours. And the sheriff's deputy said, no, we're not going to do it. After it was about, actually, he held him 3 hours trying to figure out what to do and things like that. And this was several years ago now, and this has come to our attention. Recently, this individual has been flying more actively and even during the daytime when we have witnessed this individual doing so. So that's how it all came about. And since then, this same inspector has called our FBO several times to see if there's anything the sheriff will do or the county will do so that he can come down. The issue is, yes, there's ADSP data, but there's no, it has to be witnessed by a law enforcement officer as to who was piloting command of the aircraft at the time. So ADSP data by itself isn't enough to prosecute.
But they have that information.
They have the ADSP data, but they don't know who's piloting the aircraft.
But I thought the deputy stopped him.
That was 2 years ago.
But the deputy refused to even submit a report to the FAA that would say, I found this in the
I don't
source.
Anyway, if you haven't already, pass all that information on to the county attorney and see if there's something that can be done. Obviously, there is a risk, as has been pointed out, that we do nothing, we know about it, and then something happens, and somebody gets hurt, or God forbid worse, and now, to what extent does the county have to have the liability for that?
And I haven't dealt with pilot licenses, so how do we find out if he in fact does not have an active license?
FAA website.
We're simply working off of the FAA's comments to Wright Rudder, to the airport.
Okay, but
Which again, I'll give you the contact information directly, you can confirm with this individual.
Just search his name on the FAA website, and it'll tell you whether he has a license or not.
They're also self-use stuff. There's a 145 operating in the area. And I can't take it units. There's another one, 45, holding up.
I can do that, but then I can, just knowing the county attorney a little bit, I'm just gonna say this information's 2 years old. But I'll have to get a hold of that
The
inspector.
inspector has called within the last 12 months. I don't know the exact time frame, but the inspector has called back.
Okay.
Thank
Will
you.
do.
Next, extension, environmental assessment.
Okay, so the grant was approved and fully executed, and now the budget resolution for the grant, I think, is going on the May 23 agenda. The scope of work authorization for the environmental assessment will go on the, should make it on the following agenda. June 6th, I think. So then we'll be able to get started with the EA. We also are going to be putting out an RFQ, hopefully early next month, to get proposals for a design of the runway extension.
Design for the assessment? Environmental
No, for the
assessment?
runway extension.
Okay,
We already have a work authorization for the environmental assessment. We just have to get that approved by the board and get them started on the EA. So, but the design will be separate.
great. Fuel tanks?
Fuel tanks, we had a field meeting a couple weeks ago. They're working, they've started the design. The consultant sub just sent an email actually today stating that they may have to change the configuration a little bit. So they're gonna set us some elementary plan before Monday, and we're gonna have a Zoom meeting on Monday to discuss what they're proposing. But basically it's moving forward, so. The wetland removal wildlife study, basically the field data is going on. It's three times a month on average. Be for 12 months. Started in January, so it'll go till next January. Then we'll have a report, and with that report, then we'll be looking to get an FA grant to move forward with the wetland removal, primarily south of the runway. We'll look at some of the other wetlands on the north of the taxiway as well. Inverness airspace study, obstruction removal, that went out to bid. We got no bids in. We got one bid, but the only thing that person bid on was the fencing. So we got no bids. So we have a meeting scheduled next Monday as well with the FAA to see how they want to proceed, because this is, since they're giving us 90% of the money, they kind of call the shots. So we'll be meeting with them next Monday morning, I think it is. No, 3 o'clock, I think, to see how they want to proceed. That is another option. That's why I was kind of him-hawing a little bit about the bill money for the AWAS. We might look at using the bill money for this, because now we're outside of the AIP schedule. AIP schedule, as I mentioned, we had to have a pre-app in October, November. Final application was due May 5th. That's why we had the bids come in the week before, so we could get the final grant application together, because the FAA wants a fixed contractor price to apply for the grant. So we didn't get that. So whether they'll let us be out of the cycle, I mean, we could still now to rebid it and get that in and get that to the FAA. We're looking at probably 2 months anyway, so that would be June, July. We could still do it if they would let us. But that's something we'll talk about on Monday, how they want to proceed. One of the options I may propose is to use the bill money, because again, that money does not follow a cycle or a schedule like the AIP money does. Possibly use that money, and since CIC will be starting the business park early June, I called them and kind of asked them, and said, did y'all not see this bid? How come you didn't bid on it? And I think he said they missed it. But he said if you put it out to bid again, they would certainly provide a bid. So if we decide to use the bill money and put out the bid, we'd be pretty near guaranteed a bid, because they're going to be at the business park for 9 to 18 months. Because I'll jump to that one since we're talking about the business park. I've been told by Frank Calhoun, our economic development director, that we're pretty positive we're going to get the $9 million to do the rest of the business park.
Great.
So, as y'all recall, we did that bid in bid alts because we knew we wouldn't have enough money. So we could easily award them, I think, 3 of the other bid alts and just keep going with that to finish that out. The only thing we could not award them, because it wasn't in that bid, was the taxiway extension into the business park. So we would, in the meantime, get that out to bid, and with them being right there, in all likelihood, they would likely win that bid as well. So, but if we get that $9 million, just be able to keep moving forward and get it all done in one constant motion. Andy mentioned the water issue. We did have a meeting with the city because I don't recall if we've discussed this in the past, this project's been going on forever, but we had a study done 10 years ago probably about the utility requirements for the business park, the main issue being the water. And the city does not have enough water flow down Airport Road for fire flow. So one of the options is to connect the city's water to Floral City water on Watson Street somewhere, and that way that would hope to provide enough pressure for fire suppression. Depending on how that gets worked out, the thought has been that we're just going to move forward to Business Park, and as we get occupants for that, at some point we will likely need fire suppression, and we'll have to address it at that time. If we don't move forward with the tying in Floral City water with City of Inverness water, one option, of course, is to put in tanks and pumps. That's a little bit expensive, but if you're putting in a big warehouse or a big factory, that would probably be a reasonable additional cost for building that facility. Another option would be for us to put our own well out there, which is a bit more expensive. So those issues will have to be resolved as the need comes. One of the other thoughts that Frank, I'll go ahead and mention this, that Frank has been talking about, I think we've discussed it before, the Watson Street being an access point to the business park. As Andy mentioned and we've talked about, it's not a good road for tractor trailers at this point. And we've had the trees trimmed so tractor trailers could get into the FBO, but it needs to be improved. I think I had 30 or 60% design back in 2009, 2010 area. A couple years after we built the Watson Street and South Airport Road. But the property owner, the Larkins, they did not want to willingly sell the additional piece we needed for right of way, and senior staff at that time did not want to go in the domain. So that ended the project at that point. As part of that project, I purchased the northwest corner of Watson Street and 41 for additional turn lane and stormwater storage. So we've made some progress, but so Frank is kind of pushing, thinking we need to sooner than later move forward with that project to improve that piece of Watson Street. So he's kind of taking that ball and running with it at this point to see about funding and possibly getting some additional funding since it's not in our CIP at this point. So that's something else that's being looked at. But back to the basic part of the project, as I mentioned, they say they're going to start early June, so they haven't given me a fixed date. I issued the NTP to them around April 17 with an NTP start date of April 10. They have 30 or 60 days mobilizations, which would be June 10. However, technically they've already started because they've already been doing Gopher Tortoise investigation, so they've been out there. So technically they've started. So I said,
have you heard their findings so far, which are not complete?
No, I haven't.
There's at least 20 Gopher tortoises on the business park property that we need to locate.
Really?
Yes.
How did you hear that? Was Zawinski when they were up looking at the parking lot property?
The guy checks in with us all the time.
Okay.
There were no tortoises for the parking lot area, but there's he's also marking them with flags. And I don't go on the grounds walking, but we fly directly over that on base.
Okay.
So there's at least 20, unfortunately, he's located.
Active burrows?
Active burrows. He's not complete, so he said wait for the final report, but just to be aware, I don't think that time frame that you just said might be realistic with
No.
those tortoises now. And the result, if you recall, years ago when you guys fenced that in, you buried the fence to prevent gopher tortoises from coming in.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's not been any active maintenance to the fence line. And so trees have fallen on the fence line and other things have broken the fence to allow the tortoises to come in.
Okay. Well, I was told that sometimes birds will actually drop them, the young
No,
ones.
that
So,
too.
But
And so, I'm afraid some of that 9 million is gonna go away when he told me how much it is to relocate and go for.
wow. Okay. So there's that. So that may delay. With the next thing I was going to say is I've been dealing with the public information officer Veronica about setting a groundbreaking ceremony. So that may be delayed as well, since with the groundbreaking ceremony they tend to like to have equipment out there and as a backdrop for the pictures. So
Don't want the Gopher tortoises to get in the way of the groundbreaking, do we?
well, like I said, they would like to have equipment out there, so they're probably not going to mobilize equipment until they're ready to use it. So that may delay.
Will you let us know when the groundbreaking ceremony is to be?
Will do. You're on the list.
I think it'd be good to be out there.
I provided a list to Veronica of all the what I thought potential attendees
Good.
To her yesterday. So
Taking a quick step back, Quincy, did you notify the company who did the Venable tree clearing about the obstruction removal for Inverness for the bidding process?
no,
There may be another possibility.
yeah, that was a weird situation due to the limited size and so forth. The forestry management company actually hired them, and I think the only reason they wanted to come do 9 acres was because they do bigger jobs for that company. So
Just a thought.
but actually they managed when we cleared those trees on the business park in the first place. So I believe that was the same company. So, but of course then it was 75 acres. So but yes, that's an option.
Okay. Anything else?
Did you do the parking?
The parking lot, we did not, I skipped over the parking lot, which was, they came out and put silt fence in last week. There's been an issue with the survey data. The engineer of record just spoke to him this afternoon before I came down here again. They need to provide them a little bit of clarification on some of the survey information, so the surveyor can finish staking out the job, and hopefully they'll get started. They're planning on starting breaking ground Monday.
Cool.
And that's only like a 70-day job. 30 days of that is cure time for the parking lot striping, painting. So they hopefully have that job done in 40 days. Hopefully.
For some reason, they dropped off a grader about 4 days ago.
I heard that.
The day they picked it up, they took it away.
Oh gosh.
But they dropped off the roller, so I don't know what that
Okay. So that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Quincy, anybody? Anything else to talk about? Board communication, obviously we'll look forward to the aviation workshop.
Yes, we kind of skipped over the county commission updates. One we already talked about was a workshop, but the other thing was, which is routine, acknowledgement of hangar leases. As y'all are aware, we were able to, several years ago, county administrator got it to where he could sign the leases. Instead of the leases used to have to go to the board to be signed, so that was like a month delay in getting a hangar lease. So, but the decision was that after they were signed, they would go back. They would go to the board just for their acknowledgement. So that's almost at least every other meeting. It seems like we have a lease or two going to the board for their acknowledgement. So that's that one.
Good deal.
I think that's it.
Okay. Next meeting, June 8th. You will not be here. Who else will not be here?
I will not be here.
Anybody else not going to be here? Because we need 4.
Who was the first one?
Keith, are you going to be here?
Carr.
I'll be here.
Keith, silence. Dead silence.
He's very quiet
He's
today.
very quiet.
Unusually quiet.
So if anybody that else that's going to be out of town, please speak up sooner rather than later, so that we know.
Sure, we have a quorum.
Yeah, we'll need 4 at least. Outside of that, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Luis, second. George, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.